Be smart NATO. NATO means North Atlantic Treaty Organization. This is an organization of 30 members nearly, and this is an organization where Western European countries and American countries are involved. Mainly USA is the main party of this organization. This organization come in existence when Cold War was happening, and to defeat, yeah, to protect from this organization, Russia made another that was called Warsaw Pact. So be smart. NATO, the Times of India article. Germany's Navy Chief Vice Admiral K. Him has had to resign for comments he made at an event in India, with tensions once again rising between Ukraine and Russia. Achim had said that Kiev means the capital of Ukraine, would not regain the Crimean Peninsula Moscow had seized in 2014. In recent weeks, Russia has amassed around 1 lakh troops along the Ukrainian border as part of what it says the winter exercises. Ukraine and the West fear this is preparation for a full-scale Russian invasion. Both the US and UK have pulled out some of their embassy staff and their dependents in Ukraine. Moscow has long objected to NATO's eastward expansion and sees any moves to include Ukrainian in the bloc as a red flag. Its seizure of Crimea in 2014 and support for rebels in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region show it is prepared to push the envelope. While helping Ukraine defend its borders is necessary, provoking Russia into a confrontation will be counterproductive for NATO. Russia has enough military depth for seriously complicate security dynamics in Europe. Plus, it provides Europe with more than 40% of its natural gas supply. This supply can get severely disrupted in the event of conflict, pushing European economies into turmoil. Therefore, NATO needs to adopt a sophisticated strategy to deal with the Russia at this juncture. Given this scorn-based analysis that it is important to have Russia on the same side against China is a pragmatic one. For China, with its vast economic and technological prowess, is the biggest threat to the global order. The NATO Summit Committee of June 2021 has specifically identified China as a systematic challenge to the rules based international system. Hence, if NATO were to get bogged down in a conflict with Russia, it would take away from the international efforts needed to push back against an alarmingly aggressive China. Despite what a strongman like Putin may want to believe, Russia, minus its military capability and its forays into alleged guy. Cyber interference in the other nations' affairs isn't big enough power to seriously disrupt the world. The country is facing depopulation, and without a substantive economy, it primarily relies on military and energy exports. Its ability to influence matters are limited. A conflict started by Russia also hurts Russia, and its alleged cyber interference may hurt rivals, but Moscow mostly gains more mistrust. But teamed with China, Russia can be a serious disruptor and further Beijing's interests. Thus, a better approach will be to work out a modus vivendi with Russia in Europe and drive a wedge between Moscow and Beijing. NATO needs to play smart here. Rules for a civil service. The Indian Administrative Service has been making big headlines with the Chief Minister of West Bengal and other states taking serious objections to the central government's proposed amendments to the rules governing the deputation of IAS officers. For the sake of effective governance and in the spirit of cooperative federalism, any drastic changes in the rules should await a process of consultation with the states. Recruited, appointed, and trained by the central government and allotted to various states cadres, IAS officers are mandated to serve not only in the state's cadre to which they belong, but also the central government whenever they are called upon to do so. Senior positions in the central government from the level of deputy secretary, director to secretary are expected to be manned by IAS officers on central deputation from different state cadres and officers from other services as well as others appointed for their domain knowledge. Thus, officers of the IAS are under the dual control of the state governments to which they belong and the central government, which is their appointing authority. The scheme and structure of the IAS envisages this sharing of power in order to enable both of center and states to utilize the officer services for the effective governance of the country. While the central government is vested with the ultimate authority in the matters relating to the service of conditions, including postings, transfers, and disciplinary actions, the state governments too have a participating role in these matters by way of the relevant rules. The changes to the IAS cadre rules proposed by the central government should therefore be viewed in the context and the structure and functioning of the central and state governments within our quasi-federal policy. According to the media reports and certain government writers to letters dated January 5 and 12, proposing changes and additions to the IAS cadre rules. The first purpose is that the state governments shall make available for the deputation to the central government eligible officers at various levels under the deputation reverse calculated jointly by the central government and the state governments with the former's view prevailing in the case of disagreement. Besides, it mandates state governments to carry out the direction of the central government within a specified period of time. Going further through the subsequent letter of January 12, the center arrogates to itself the authority to seek the services of any IS officer in a state for posting to any central post, where two, the state government shall give effect to the decision of the central government within the specified time. More drastically, it states that if the state government ignores this direction within the period specified by the central government, the officer shall stand relieved from the cadre from the date as may be specified by the central government. There is a suddenness to these moves, and they are stated to have been occasioned by the steep fall in the number of officers going on central deputation from 69% of the mandated reverses in 2014 to 30% in the 2021 according to one estimate. This is of course a serious shortfall, but instead of proposing drastic changes in the rules, Government of India should first introspect and examine why central deputation is no longer as popular as it was in the past. Have the conditions of the service in the states deteriorated with the states, making central deputation a less attractive option for officers in the states? Have changes in the implement system at higher levels closed the door to officers who would have otherwise been available for service at the center? Has uncertainty crept into tenures of services for IAS officers on central deputation? Government of India should also be conscious of fact that grassroots level administration remains with the states. Even central schemes are largely implemented through state governments. Arbitrary and sudden transfers of officers from the states of the central can be highly disruptive, undermining governance in the state. Moreover, non BJP states are alarmed at that way, with some justification, perceive as serious infringement of their constitutionally sanctioned, sanction, sanctified right to govern through their institutions of governance, of which the IAS is a critical part. Against the backdrop of increasing points of differences and areas of confrontation between the central government and non BJP state governments, controversy over the proposed amendments is avoidable. It is therefore good that the central government has initiated a process of consultation with the states. They would be well advised to widen and deepen the process to include the officers too, and then decide whether the proposed amendments are in the right direction for ensuring timely availability of IS officers at different levels for deputation to the center without undermining the authority, responsibility, and functional efficiency to the states and causing undue distress to the officers and disruption of the family lives. At the end of the day, the solution lies in cooperative federalism. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi said at a function in Burnpur in 2015, our constitution gave us a federal structure. Sadly, center state relations were tense for a long time. I have been a chief minister and I know this is not desirable. That is why we have brought change, keeping the focus on cooperative federalism. That is why I say Team India. The country cannot progress without a Team India attitude.